Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Kickback Comics. My name is Antonio.
My name is Ben, and you guys are listening to a comic book podcast.
By two guys who have not read a lot of comics, but are looking to get involved, read some cool stories, look at some great art, plug directly into the internet with our brains. We're not going to do that, but we're going to read some cool stories.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our new hobby. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
What are we reading today? What are we talking about, Antonio?
Man, we're talking about some crazy stuff today, my man. We're talking about Tokyo Ghost.
This one was a slapper.
Yeah, this one was kind of crazy, bro. This one was like, this is the beauty of kind of all these stories, but I don't read any summaries. I don't read nothing about these things before we dive into them. They're just on the list, and I just pick them up and then read them, and this was crazy.
Yeah, I read this one before, I think in like 2020, I want to say. So like
back in the day.
6 years ago now, which is crazy. But yeah, the part of the reason why I read this book in the first place is because the artist, what's his name? His last name is Murphy.
Sean Murphy.
Yeah,
Shawnee boy.
Sean Murphy has just a really, really cool art style that really appeals to me.
He does.
It's called like Batman Curse of the White Knight, I'm pretty sure. There's like a Batman run that he did all the art for. Whoa. That I read. It was one of the first like Batman things I read, and I really, really, really liked the art style. So then I basically was looking at my local comic book shop for other books that he had done art for and picked this one up.
Super cool. Super cool. Yeah, this is how we feel about all of the comics and books that we look through, but this one, especially for sure, if you're interested in taking a look, go pick it up, go give it a read, see how everything's looking. It's super, super sick. Sean went kind of crazy on this one.
It also has a lot of relevant themes. It's sort of like this tech dystopia that, although it's like
we've had a couple of those recently.
Right, exactly. We're sort of entering into the tech dystopia for real.
That we are.
But this is obviously like a very exaggerated, hyper crazy, wild ride. But it's got little kernels of depth and relatable, scary stuff in there as well.
Things to keep your eyes open for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think there's certain things that maybe we'll get into some of them as we discuss it. But I feel like there's things that sort of rang true or the author was commenting on at the time when it was first published. Right. And now, even just in the 5 or 6 years since then, some of those things are even more clear and more relevant. Like how quickly this stuff is progressing and all of our, culturally and societally getting brain rotted by technology.
By the AI overlords, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're really in this bitch like that.
About to be on that Superman planet where we just get told to listen to the AI and we don't even write anything. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do our stuff and we're going to read.
Yeah, we're out here reading paper books in real life.
That's what we're doing.
Hanging out with friends and talking about it and engaging.
We're not even reading Kindles. None of that. We're doing physical books. Physical.
Yeah, we're trying. Anyways, here we go. Let's get into it. Should we jump to our little fact sheet and start talking about this book?
So, obviously this is called Tokyo Ghost. It's published by Image Comics. We've read a couple of theirs that have come out, like Do a Powerbomb and God Country. And there's a little bit of history, Ben, with Image.
Right. Image, as everybody knows, like Marvel, that's going to have Avengers, Spider-Man, whatever, all that superhero stuff. DC has their own thing going with, obviously, Superman, Batman, all that. We've read some of that.
Right.
Image, if you remember, we talked about it briefly in one of our previous episodes, but it's one of the comic book publishers that lets authors and artists keep the rights to their characters and stories and stuff that they come up with.
That's great.
So it's far more supportive for the creators themselves, which obviously I really fuck with, and everybody probably should fuck with too.
I agree.
But they have great stories. They have Invincible, like Antonio said, some of the great stuff we've read already, like Do a Powerbomb and God Country, etc.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to be reading a lot more Image stuff as we go. But shout out Image Comics.
Yeah,
Super
definitely. So for this, the writer is Rick Remender. The artist is Sean Murphy, who we already talked a little bit about earlier. The color artist is Matt Hollingsworth. The letterer is Russ Wooten. And then the editor is Sebastian Gerner. good team putting this together for sure. This was originally published in, I believe, 2015, 2016, around those. There's about 10 total issues in the full collected editions. We've got today the first collected edition, which is volume 1, which is issues 1 through 5. Maybe at some point we'll do volume 2. If not, you should read it on your own as well. But that's issues 6 through 10.
And that's a whole story. It's
exactly. Just 10 issues. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Which is, again, we've mentioned this before, but that's very satisfying within the comics medium, because comics often have especially the really
They're just
long,
going.
Yeah, they keep going. The continuity oftentimes they keep, instead of starting new stories, they just keep building on what's going on, and then
New universes.
Yeah, and then they feel the need to do these, like, instead of just rebooting or starting other stories, they'll do all these. It's like how we've been reading the ultimate universe for Marvel and the absolute universe for
ultimate.
DC. They have to like just do entirely new side arcs that are their own standalone thing that are more accessible to people like me and Antonio who've
not read a lot of comics, but are looking to get involved.
Read some cool stories.
All that.
See some cool pictures.
Yeah.
What'd you think broadly,
dude,
bro?
It was wild. I did not know what to expect. And I think, one thing I think to like say outright, this is definitely the most like, I don't know. It's like, I want to say adult comic.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
that like, I think in certain ways, like Watchmen was kind of like up there a little bit like that. But this one I feel like is much more, you're gonna understand like the satire of a lot of like the craziness that goes on in this super futuristic dystopia thing. I feel like if you're an adult a bit more than maybe if you're younger.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. I mean, it's graphic in that it has like
almost every way.
Right. It has a lot of nudity,
violence,
a lot of violence, but it's done. I mean, I don't want to say tastefully because that's not quite
really
right.
The point. I think.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good analogy with Watchmen, where Watchmen is adult and mature in like the themes are so profound and the dialogue is so serious, and it's dealing with such like just true legitimate topics. This is more of just kind of like a wild ride, doing sort of tongue in cheek, like snarky commenting on like references to all these internet. It's a lot about internet culture, which is a lot of just sort of wild shock value type stuff. There's a lot of sort of surface level shock value, like we're just going to throw some genitals in this page and just for the bit
and cut off some people's heads and whatever else.
But it's not like it's not anything over the top or ridiculous. It just is for a more adult audience, and therefore throw in more adult themes and stuff in there.
More intensity.
Which hey, we're adults.
We're adults as far as we know.
Kickback Comics is not a
children's podcast.
This is not.
Do kids be listening to podcasts like children? I don't know.
They're watching clips of podcasts on TikTok. I think for real. I don't know if they have the attention span to listen to us yap this long.
That's actually a great point. They probably don't. But if
which is super on theme with this book, for real.
Yeah, and just to give like a little overview of this, this is the year 2089 in Los Angeles, where we are right now, and we've got our two main characters named Led Dent and Debbie Decay, and basically they're living in this crazy, almost like apocalyptic dystopian sci-fi, run by corporate moguls who basically made everybody addicted to technology. So that's what we're about to get into. Should we dive into issue number 1 here?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to the dossier.
Let's do it to the dossier. So issue number 1. In 2089, Los Angeles, like I just said, basically everybody's addicted to what's called this nanopack technology, which is, it's like screens, it's like everything.
And everyone has these microbots like injected in their body, all this stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
It's in the blood. Tech is in the blood.
It's in the blood, yeah. So these constables, which are kind of like the policemen, but more kind of intense and
but I also think they're like privately contracted, which is wild.
Yeah. I don't even know if there's like really like a regular police force. It's just kind of like mercenaries for everybody. But so these two constable police mercenary folks, Led Dent and Debbie Decay, hunt down this murderous hacker, Davy Trauma, for their corporate bosses. Debbie is one of the last straight edge people. She basically refuses to have this technology stuff injected into her. She hates how tech is consumed. Led, who is her boyfriend, who she's been around for a long time, she hates how it's also infected the world around them. As they end up chasing Davy, as they're trying to capture him through this kind of like all these toxic canals and this crazy like stunt race arena where everything's like blowing up and there's cars and whatever else, we end up learning that this guy Davy can hijack basically anybody who's got that nanotechnology that's pumped into their body, including Lead. Lead is very addicted to this stuff, by the way, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper. But he can hack into anybody's body and brain like Lead, and this guy Davey is just going around killing civilians for fun. He's a really sadistic. They describe him as like psychopathic, narcissistic psychopath in the story. But anyway, so Debbie ends up working with Lead to take Davy down, and she ends up deciding that basically her only hope of saving this man that she loves, Lead, is to get away from all the tech and escape to one of the last basically unplugged places that's left, Japan. And I believe it's called the Garden Nation of Tokyo at this point. But so pretty crazy intro to this. There's a lot of explosions and violence, and you really just see like how, for lack of a better term, fucked the world is.
It's very Mad Max. Like it's not just, oh, here's the future and everyone is addicted to tech. It's clearly some kind of absolutely apocalyptic situation has happened.
Yep.
It's also sort of implied that LA is one of the only places where there's still a bunch of humans even gathered. Like,
right,
I think
right.
This is kind of post us blowing up the planet to some extent. And there's some cool quotes about that. But what a cool opening to the story.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and again, like to this stuff, when we're talking about this tech here, it's like obviously there's like a bunch of ads and stuff like that everywhere and things like that. But Led, for example, who's one of our main characters here, he's on this like big orange motorcycle, and the dude literally like, I don't even know how he drives this thing other than maybe it just drives itself, but he's like looking at screens constantly.
Yeah,
like they're right in front of his face.
He has like basically like a VR helmet on that's just always showing him like he's got a bajillion tabs open. It's looking like he's like watching porn like at all times, which is wild.
It's crazy. It's like everything under the sun is what's just like coming up. It's constant influx. Obviously
distraction.
We feel like that a little bit these days, and it's basically just taking everything like that and putting it on every steroid.
That really does feel like the crux or the thesis of this book is just trying to take all these little things that we're beginning to experience, like, general brain rot, negative effects of technology that are in our lives, and then taking them out, drawing those things out to some crazy, neo-future extreme thing. And
it's crazy.
The character design for these guys is really dope too.
Yeah.
Led is this huge hulking guy with this VR helmet thing on.
Yeah, he looks like scary. He kind of just looks like a hulking I don't even know what word to like use, but because oaf is like too nice, but he's just like this big hulking figure. And then you got Debbie, who doesn't have any tech on her at all.
She's like one of the only people you even see in all of the crazy backgrounds and everything. That looks kind of like pure, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And she's also kind of she's like a Harley Quinn-esque person. I'd say.
Yeah,
She's
that is kind of like her vibe.
Yeah, like a
she's
lanky
like
blonde
nicer
woman.
than that, but it's kind of funny that she's nicer than that, because it's like being this nice, but also doing this like crazy. Like again, they're chasing down this guy in the beginning. Like the first thing that they're doing is like chasing somebody who I guess is maybe. Part of like the circle that Davy Trauma runs in, and they literally just like smash his face against like the wall as they're like driving on the motorcycle. So they're pretty insane themselves, but Davy Trauma is like a whole other thing. And he's just driving around like blowing things up. There's just guns firing, all this craziness. So you really get like, this is not one of those things that like starts like slow. It really throws you into the insanity of what's going on in Los Angeles at this time immediately.
Right. It's like one of the things that in this chase they end up running into is called the death race. So I'll read some of the quotes here from it. So it says, "Exhaust-filled humidity leaves alkaline tingle in my mouth. The death races is the last sport played outside of the net. It's the only thing exciting enough to get people off their couches.
Crazy.
Depressing." which is wild. And you see all these people just like, it's just cars racing through the cities,
just blowing
people
up.
Dying, blowing
right, yeah,
up
it's
everywhere.
like they can like blow up and like fly into the stands, and like that's like a normal thing for them, which is insane.
Right. There's also, let's see what it says here on the next page. It's saying every kill is a stat, and like a video game, reality has become what was always inside us: a thirst for violence and competition, romanticizing murder and warfare. Right. Everything is adversarial.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this book is, then again, shout out the artist Sean Murphy. Every single panel sort of feels like this amazing Where's Waldo type situation where...
It's so funny. You said that earlier when we were talking about this before the podcast. And now that I'm looking at this again, it feels even more like that, which is crazy.
Like they're really thinking out. There's just so many crazy, kooky, wild characters and stuff going on in the background. And these books, aside from the story even, it's like fun just to look and see what's going on in the background. Like all these crazy character designs, all these random little funny interactions that are happening.
Yeah, the world building that I think, like you're saying, kind of goes on in this. Like I'm noticing things, and this is actually what I said to you earlier. I'm noticing things that I never even realized before. Like they're chasing Davy Trauma through this thing, and there's a whole bunch of people, and in the background you're seeing like this little like boutique almost thing that's it's called Weapons and Eyeliner, right? It's just like it's again, it's like this obviously satirical, but just so intensive a world. And even beyond the pieces of this where you're looking at the dialogue and whichever else, where there's this crazy panel where Davy Trauma calls himself the Jesus of murder, just to show you some of the quotes that are coming out of this guy's mouth. But like you said, it really is insane world building through this art here.
The chapter also introduces us to this sort of nanotech that they can inject you with and transform your body. So there's this guy, during this chase, they go past, the way they're doing the world building too, like in and amongst this brutal chase and pursuit is very cool. So they drive past this guy advertising the tech, and he's saying, from zero to hero guaranteed. With Flax patented nanomorph, we can reshape your bones, your muscles, your face, the whole shit and shebang, turn you into the person you deserve to be. And then there's a couple walking by, and he's saying, how'd you like to fuck Captain Power Zap tonight, sweetheart? I could turn that runt you're with into a goddamn Superman. And
then we also see like the obviously like Superman looking guy who is kind of off the side, which is kind of obviously a little fun callback. And then they kill him.
Yeah, casually decapitate him.
Yeah, Davey just comes through and slices him.
Davey guy is on a hover scooter that really is...
It has like blades on the bottom of it. It's like a lawnmower.
Right. It's pink. It's definitely designed to be reminiscent of the hoverboard from Back to the Future, I feel like.
Oh, that's funny. That's a good point.
But yeah, he pulls into this room. There's a guy dressed like Abe Lincoln for some reason, and he literally just like blades, I don't know, countless death. He literally shouts out, "Behold, I am the Jesus of murder," like this, and the lettering for him too. All of his text looks like internet text.
Yeah,
like
it does.
I don't know. It's crazy. It really is we're thrown right into this absolutely ridiculous, wild setting.
And it's interesting. Once we kind of get to the part where they're catching up to Davy, we start seeing all this just craziness where, again, Lead Den is like completely locked in on this stuff. And it's only when they get basically kicked off the motorcycle and he's like physically ripped away from the screens that he's looking at, does he do like anything like kind of like outwardly to protect Debbie, which is just crazy.
Right. You can see she basically activates his nanotech. She says, a nanopack release of months worth of adrenaline. He begs like a child for me to stop. And I tell him to shut his weak mouth. We need him angry. So you can see she can just kind of press a button and make him go Hulk mode, and he just turns into this sort of like undefeatable guy.
Monster guys. It's crazy. One of the other things actually that I forgot to mention when they're kind of running around is not only is this obviously violent and whatever else, but the way that they talk about feelings and things like that. Like one of the things that's interesting in this is that the drugs are like, you're like taking a drug that makes you feel like true love. Like that's the feeling you get, or you're feeling, happiness or whatever. It's like a literal physical pill that you take to make you feel those things, which is wild.
Speaking of love, that's kind of where we get like this whole chapter. What's this girl's name? Why am I blanking?
Debbie.
Debbie. This whole chapter, Debbie is sort of narrating the narration that we're reading is her talking to Led, who
Right.
obviously isn't really paying attention to her, kind of tragically. And we learn more about their history and relationship in later chapters. But here at the end, once all the violence stops, we see her kind of gently take his mask off, and he just looks manic,
Yeah, he's
frantic. There's all these like pipes
fried,
and
bro.
yeah, like wires and stuff coming out of his ears and his eyes and his nose, and he just looks so coked out and manic.
Yeah.
And like he can barely hear her, and you can see she's trying to like coax. She's basically telling him, she's trying to save him and get them to escape out of this, you know, messed up reality they're in. And she's trying to like kiss him and get
And like
him
even
to
like
just be
seduce
present.
him and just like she's trying to do like everything, like, you know, what would be considered some of the like you know, just like stuff that you would expect, for example, your boyfriend to react to
Right.
pretty easily. And he, I mean, I don't know if you want to read this quote in particular, but
You do it. Go ahead.
yeah, it's basically, you know, she's asking him to say his name, and he's like, my shows are on, right? Literally, like as she's trying to like kiss him, and basically is sitting on top of him, he is like trying to immediately
Right.
go back into watching his shows and get sucked into the tech again.
And she's just trying to ground him in who he is. Like she's
Right.
not saying say my name or say your name in a sexual way. Like literally just like, hey,
Who
remember
are you?
who you
Yeah.
are. Like you're not just stuck in the web. And she's basically trying to tell him that once they've finished this job, they need to quit.
Yep.
So she's like, you have to tell Flack you're done, baby. It has to be your choice. That's the deal. You have to leave his tech on the table. You have to remember who you are. And it's just tragic. You see, you know, she's sort of like taking her clothes off and stuff, trying to connect with him and ground him in reality any way she can. And
he won't.
Yeah, he won't. And then it's like the last frame of this chapter is you can see all these like bodies and destruction and madness all around, and they're just sort of like lying there.
And he's already watching his shows again.
Yep.
Which is
he
crazy.
just leans back and has his little holograms and
Yeah, and everything like that. And we get these last little kind of quotes here from Debbie's internal monologue where she says, "There it is, the obvious truth. You're lost inside this idiot forever. No way through him to you. You're gone, Teddy, the boy I love. Lost inside the man he's become." So depressing, but that's what it is for issue number 1. Should we slide on to issue number 2?
Let's see. So, issue number 2. Here's our little summary in the dossier. Debbie and Led report to media mogul Flack, who knows Debbie wants to flee to tech-free Japan. So he offers them one final mission: infiltrate Tokyo, kill its ruler, and destroy the EMP field protecting the country so he can exploit all of its resources. The issue cuts between this setup and flashbacks showing Debbie's childhood, with a mother lost to screens and a cop father who warned her against tech addiction. We see Debbie pull a young Teddy Dennis off of nanopacks. And Teddy is obviously grows up to become Led. Yep. So she pulls him off the nanopacks, and the two of them grow up clean and in love. It's actually really kind of beautiful.
It's the two of them
it's just
versus
two
the
of them.
world.
Two of them alone. Neither of their parents are really paying attention. Everyone in society is mental, and it's, you know, they're just there for each other.
Yep.
So let's see. We see Debbie pull a young Teddy Dennis off nanopacks. The two of them grown up clean and in love, until Teddy, ashamed he couldn't protect her from a filmed beating, joins the constables and becomes the nano-jacked Led Dent. In the present, Debbie and Led travel to Japan, and they spend some days detoxing Led, and they run into a samurai scout. Debbie manages to tackle the warrior across a ravine, only to find herself surrounded by armed locals.
So there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot that goes on. We get, again, more world building towards, especially like the beginning of this. We meet this guy, Flack, who's like the most like hedonistic, crazy tech mogul that there is. They go into his...
He's kind of running L.A.
Yeah, he's running LA, and they walk into his like gigantic mansion thing, and it's like, you know, what marble pillar? That's what I was thinking. Marble pillars, and it's like this gigantic bath, and there's swans, and there's naked people, mostly naked women that are all around this. And again, you like compare it to what's going on outside, where it's just like sludge and tech stuff, and it's crazy. And it's interesting because this guy, I didn't even think about this before, but he's relatively obviously not addicted to the technology. He has kind of stayed away from that as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's messed up. It's you know, just one of these evil tech overlords
Yep.
that are starting to pop up right now.
Yeah.
And this is the crazy version of him. And again, this dude's just naked. Classic. There's a bunch of naked women around, and he's hanging crazy dong, and people are draping
Yeah, dude.
draping robes on him, and he's smoking a pipe, and then it's gross, man. Like as soon as he gets up out of the bath, all these sort of like women around him just immediately start drinking his bath water,
Which is it's like, I'm trying to think of even like the right word for this, but it's crazy. It's just crazy.
And again, all this, like this was published around the time, like what, I don't know, like 2018, 2019, like, and it's all the things in the book are, these crazy versions of real things that are happening. Like this is right when people, these models and online people are just selling their bathwater for crazy money for
man.
people want that. It's
I don't even know if you lost in the sauce anymore when you're buying that stuff, man. You lost in something else. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, crazy times. And so
there's some. Oh no, go.
Oh no, go please.
There's just no. You go.
I was just going to talk about how they basically end up like taking apart Davy. So if you were going to talk about something before that, then
no. Jump into that.
So the next piece of this is that they end up learning that Flack and his scientists and whoever else, after they captured Davy Trauma, they ended up basically taking him apart and realizing that he is this like cyborg thing here. And basically what they end up learning is that there's this, they say it's this hush-hush Japanese weapons consortium known as Project Akata. And let's see, I'll read maybe this full quote. He said, during the big melt, the Japanese government was working on a way to get theirs.
The big melt, meaning global warming,
right,
destroying the world, ocean levels rising, all that.
Everything like that. I think you're definitely right. But yes, the Japanese government was working on a way to get theirs in the global cluster fucking. One, Dr. Akata was tasked with cooking up ways to grow new farmlands, or failing that, weapons to help plunder resources from other nations. Davy is one product of Akata's research, a human mind capable of infiltrating any computer system, hacking defense codes, taking control of drones, making everyone's like it's insane. But let's see.
He's a formidable opponent.
Yeah, but the process left him too deranged to be of use. But basically, what they end up learning is that Tokyo is basically this garden with enough food and clean water to supply our nation of Los Angeles for decades. That's what Flack is saying here. So he ends up going and tasking Debbie and Led with this quote unquote, final task. He's definitely the kind of guy that's like, yeah, this is your last mission. And then this is your last mission for sure, because this other one was supposed to be their last mission. But he basically says, you go and get into Japan and kill. Basically, there's this EMP that's stopping all the technology that's going on there. And they basically say, go to Japan, destroy the EMP, and you're good to go.
There's a conversation between Debbie and Flack that I think is maybe like one of the more important ones in the whole story.
Yeah.
So I'll just read this page here. So basically Debbie is saying, I couldn't hear you over the servants drinking your own bathwater. And Flack says, I always welcome you to speak your mind, Sandy. She says, Debbie. She says, you think I enjoy watching people drink my pee water, Wendy? The horses eat the apples. The flies eat their shit. It's the way the world's always been. Look, I didn't create the problem. Robotics do the farming, mining, manufacturing, construction, everything. We left an unemployed population with a lot of free time, so I keep them entertained. You drown them in idiocy, or worse, echo chambers designed to reinforce their misinformed opinions.
That sounds like...
Right. This is all just too real.
Yeah.
And then Flack says, people don't change their minds anymore, Brandy, so why even bother trying? I didn't win the world ratings war by fighting human nature. People pick a tribe and fall in line. So I gave them each their own channel, told them what they wanted to hear. I make them comfortable. When human life becomes worthless, I give it value. Every show watched is a purchase. Those purchases move industry and create jobs. Consumption gives human life meaning.
Yeah, I think you're so right that's like that dialogue that happens right there is probably the most direct way of addressing, at least in this collection of issues, of what's going on. 100%. Yeah, crazy. People don't change their minds anymore. So why bother trying? Pretty crazy. What a wild guy. I don't even know. But so anyway, Debbie and Led end up deciding that they're going to go to Tokyo to get other contracts. And they're riding along, basically getting out of the city, going to get all set up to leave. And one of the moments actually towards the end of this chapter, which is pretty crazy, is that Debbie needs to wake up Led to kind of just get him ready to go on this journey to go do all these different things. And she ends up basically shocking him to wake up his subconscious. And this dude like freaks out. I mean, he starts like throwing up, freaking out, all this kind of stuff like that. And then she has to give him a sedative to put him out again until they get to Tokyo, which is pretty crazy.
And then that immediately transitions into this whole backstory. Basically, there's a bunch of text just telling us the story of their lives.
Yeah,
and then that's
which is interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool panel layout.
Yeah.
And it's juxtaposed next to all these like wide rectangular panels that are sort of further illustrating what's going on. And we see little Debbie. Her mom is just like this obese, terrifying person in an armchair. She's like has some kind of crazy like, masturbation machine.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and the kid is like,
she's like,
I drew us in this garden Dad used to talk about, and the mom literally says, "Fuck off, Deborah. Mom's having her afternoon pleasure."
Yeah,
it's like
crazy, dude.
It's given like Honey Boo Boo, mom, abusive, messed up,
but even worse and more tech addicted.
Right. And you see little Teddy drinking kitty sugar bucket sized.
That's great. That's another one. I didn't even notice that I said that the first time. Sugar bucket.
Yeah, huge 7-Eleven Slurpee.
Yeah.
But anyways, basically, we see Debbie and Teddy growing up together.
She rips the tech away from him, and then they grow up basically experiencing nature and actually. Time grew. They grew up, fell in love, shared their first kiss, and they found this abandoned greenhouse and made it their kind of place to stay. And so that was
secret garden where they played kickball, read books, and made art. It was there year by year, and they became best of friends. No one else understood them or cared to try. They were the only family they needed. So very sweet.
Very sweet. And then we get to things that are not so sweet. Where basically this 1 year outside of the garden, there are these. They call them tech heads, emo dealers, body pirates, cannibal hunters that are all, outside of this. But there's this group of kids that pull up basically to their garden and end up filming them, just immediately starting to film them. And then Teddy ends up coming out and yelling and saying, put down that camera. We're not actors for your Me Too page. We're people. And then these people are just basically loving this. They're kind of like rage baiting him with this whole thing. And then they end up beating him up. Like they basically beat him like almost to death on camera. And this whole thing is like scripted. They're doing this for the shock value of everything that's going on. And then Debbie is the one who actually ends up fighting back and beating off these people. But the problem ends up being that this video went so viral that everybody just starts disrespecting the hell out of Teddy. And basically, like, it's like his teacher says, I'm like, it's crazy. When I was looking at this.
They're in school. Everyone's on their phones looking at the video. It says the video of his beating became a click hit. Everyone had seen it the next day at school. They were all laughing at weak Teddy protected by his girlfriend. The clip became the second most watched of the year. It beat out only a top game show that has poor people counting rich people's money.
Crazy, bro.
And the teacher is literally saying, "Son, you are a grade A pussy."
Yeah, insane.
But basically, his shame from this viral video and his inability to protect his only family and companion, basically drives him to. He just gets this really messed up mentality where he feels like he's not enough, and decides to get his body pumped full of the nanotech, and he becomes this crazier, stronger, bigger version of himself.
Steroid version, and Lead Dent, and that's when he becomes Lead Dent as this constable.
And he joins the constables. And then he says the first day as constable, he found the gang who beat him, and he nearly killed them all. As time went by, Lead Dent became the most feared man alive. Years of seething finally given some way out. Lead became addicted to the power. Debbie tried to hold him together, holding on to the tech head that she loved. She ended up in the exact same situation she hoped to avoid. She was just like her dad.
Crazy. And he really is beating the hell out of these people that gang who had beaten him. He basically destroys them, and we'll come back to some more of this later on. But then we jump back to now when they're getting close to Tokyo, and Debbie's talking about how much she genuinely does love Teddy, and she is definitely holding on to these old memories of who he was, even though he's now this kind of super roided out violent guy. So there it is. And this chapter ends with that. Actually, this is such a randomly cool panel where they're in this sub going to Tokyo, and there's these two giant whales kind of swimming around each other. Yeah, it looks like maybe a mom and daughter or whatever else.
It's our first glimpse of nature.
Yes,
also,
that's actually a great point. I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
Yeah, we're leaving LA. We see them going through the ocean.
Have we seen an animal yet? Maybe
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Unless it's like in a cage or on a string.
Right,
or something.
exactly.
But now the panels change drastically. Like as one of the things.
Shout out to Sean.
Yeah, shout out to Sean, and also shout out to the color artist.
Yes. True.
Hollingsworth.
Yes. Mr. Hollingsworth.
Yeah. Big up. But one of my favorite things, I was talking to Antonio earlier while we were sort of getting set up to record, is the color changes so much depending on what kind of scene they're in. Like when in that car chase earlier, every time they're sort of on that like death race track, everything is really orange. When they're going through like the LED lights of the city, it's all blue and purple. As soon as they get to Japan, like this nature zone that they're popping up in, it's just over the top, lush and green in a way that we haven't even seen yet in the book. And as it goes on, like there's later this, in the next chapter, we're going to get into some more like profound romantic scenes, and those are like really dark blues and purples. It kind of seems like they're in like this galaxy together.
Yep.
And then later when the conflict pops back up, it's full of reds and bloody pink. You know, all this crazy.
It's just great use of color to evoke the emotions and really help set the scene for the feeling for each of these issues as we go through in each of these portions of these issues.
And lets you know where you are.
Yes, very true as well.
But story wise, they pull up to Japan.
They land in Tokyo. EMP shuts off the engines before they even fully get to the beach, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then it's so funny. I started just calling him Teddy when I was reading this because I just couldn't say lead dent every time. But
I think he is becoming Teddy now.
He's kind of becoming Teddy again here. But basically, they jump out of the submarine, and Teddy basically hasn't even seen like the sun. He's like, "What is that? Jesus Christ!" And Debbie says that's what the sun looks like without a cloud of shit covering it. And basically, they end up deciding that they need to look around and figure out where this warlord is. That's what Flack actually told them as well, is that there's a warlord that's controlling Japan and they need to deal with that. And it's so funny because she just talks about going and getting this stuff done, and then Teddy's just like, complaining. He's, I'm feeling fine. I don't need you protecting me. And she's like, yes, you do. Where are you going? And he just goes looking around, and he's just complaining to himself, saying, don't tell me what to do. I'm not a fucking kid anymore. I can handle my shit. And then he just like throws up. It's like he's like throwing up like bots. It's like obviously just like regular yak or whatever else, but it's like robotic parts that are coming out of him. And then he sees himself in the reflection of the water, and then we see our first samurai.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, he just is instantly having withdrawals, like really, really profound, serious withdrawals, both from the drugs that they are pumping. Everybody's just on drugs all the time.
Yep.
Everyone's keeping themselves completely distracted with their screens all the time. And he's definitely struggling re-entering the real world.
Right. And so we've got this new samurai person where Led is chasing after them because he realizes obviously if they tell somebody that they're here, then they're going to find out. This warlord's going to find out about it. And so he chases them, running right off into this cliff. And this is actually, you and I were talking about this earlier, this page.
Huge splash page.
Yeah, huge splash page with Led falling off basically this side of this hill that he was running across as this samurai flies off to the other side. And we see all the green. It's like Tokyo, but has been completely overrun by moss and plants and trees and everything like that. Like there's a gigantic skyscraper and a tree is basically climbing up. I'm looking at, actually, this is again a great thing for looking at all the backgrounds of these things, but there are trees that are over the tops of these buildings. So nature has taken its course and really transformed Tokyo.
Right. And it's like, LA, post-apocalypse LA is like, tech hellscape, and post-apocalypse Japan is like a nature heaven.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Super, super contrasted.
Yeah. And
but Debbie's basically the one who ultimately manages to tackle the samurai during this chase, and then they get up to see that they're completely surrounded.
There's a lot of them.
All these people in like traditional Japanese garb. They all got samurai weaponry and whatnot, and and this glowing pink woman surrounded by.
I thought she was gonna be like a giant when I first saw her in this. I was like, she's so tall in comparison to everybody else, but she's normal size.
But she definitely looks like supernatural. She's glowing. She has bunnies all around her. There's like mushrooms growing in her footsteps.
Yeah.
This is like a very supernatural person in a complete different way from all the tech heads we've been seeing.
Right.
And she basically is saying, and what have we here? Some weeds growing in my garden.
Yeah.
And
this is such a great shot. We've got like people with bows and arrows like hanging from vines and stuff like that. It's super cool. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
But that wraps up issue number 2.
And we sort of begin our whole little arc in Japan now.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Should we take a short little break?
Yeah,
Stretch our
we'll take a
legs
little break.
and then, jump back in.
That sounds good to me. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Let's do it. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back.
I hope you had a
Oh, wow.
That was wild.
We're the same.
We locked in. We were synced up.
Yeah, we were.
All right, my fault.
Now we have to decide who's going to say it. Thanks for coming back. It was a good break.
I hope you had a good break too.
Yeah. But we're back. We're back, and we're about to dive into issue number 3 of Tokyo Ghost. So just a reminder, we just arrived in Japan with Debbie and Led, and we just saw a bunch of people from this Japanese anti-tech society. So Debbie and Led come face to face with Kazumi, who's this woman that we saw in that last panel of the last issue there. She's the powerful leader of Japan's anti-technology society. She ends up healing Debbie after she had fallen off that same hill or little cliff thing that Led was running off to. So she heals her and makes it clear that there's no place for lies or violence or anything like that in this Neo Bushido world that they're creating here. As Debbie and Led settle into this tech-free, very tech-free environment, Led talks about finishing their mission and finding the EMP, but Debbie is basically insisting that they finally, have everything they need. They don't have to go back. They don't have to do this. And later on, we actually end up seeing Led, and maybe this is Teddy, reflect on how much of his life has been driven by fear rather than love. And in this quiet moment between the two of them, kind of like underneath this waterfall, this is kind of the panels that Ben were talking about that are these like deep blue, purples, all that kind of stuff like that. He kind of awkwardly proposes to Debbie, and she accepts, which is this kind of nice, sweet moment. And then immediately after that, in the shadows, we see this warrior guy who's been scarred and ends up recognizing Led as a former constable who had brutalized him years ago, and is basically plotting revenge against Led from the bushes. So pretty wild stuff that we're about to get into, especially in the next issue. But this one I feel like is like the only issue where like things are like kind of going good for a little while. They're really anti-tech, and everything is like beautiful and green. This woman Kazumi is showing them around and also not being combative against them. Obviously, she acknowledges that they're from a place that definitely has a lot of tech, but it seems like a lot of refugees actually come to Tokyo in particular to get away from all that stuff.
Right. She's basically describing this culture that they're setting up, which is, again, like she said, Neo Bushido, which is, I think, they're basically trying to return to more like feudal Japan style situation, leaning on some of the ways of thinking and cultural setups that they had going on back then. We see all this amazing like farmland they have, like those like rice farming hills that are kind of set up in and amongst the city. It's all just really beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
There's some cool lines here where she's describing their culture, and it's like you said, all these refugees from all over the world are showing up and sort of trying to join into this way of life. So as she's touring them around, she says, "I commend you. It's hard to shed the cocoon of familiarity and seek out a better life, even when what we leave behind is toxic. We often attach ourselves to whatever is nearest and convince ourselves it's right, even when we know it isn't." Led scoffs and says, "I'm feeling like that was directed at me." She says, "We have simple expectations. Always choose what is good for the clan. Consume only what you produce, and forgive all slights. No violence." And he's like, "What? You don't hurt fuckers when they act like assholes? What's to stop them from acting like bigger assholes?" Bushido refers not only to martial rectitude, but personal rectitude. We understand that in serving each other, we serve our own interests. In serving our world, our world serves us, allowing us to live in harmony. So, we can see they have a culture of integration and forgiveness and nonviolence and all these, cool values that are just in stark opposition to
Yeah, I actually have another. I'm going to read just maybe one more quote from her as well, where she ends up saying, and this is Kazumi, she says, "We are born with a deep need for nature, simple, calm symmetry with the world around us. We pollute that which we most need, tearing up the perfect simplicity we were intended to live amidst. In denying that connection, we've grown sick. In our quest for convenience, we've traded in the earth for synthetic facsimile." But anyway, the idea here is that, definitely with the quote that Ben brought here, but the whole idea is that they are trying to reach this harmony with nature again. It is kind of like a beautiful thing, forgive all slights, no violence, do things that are, in serving our world serves us. And Teddy is definitely fighting against it originally, but over this chapter, he starts to open up a little bit.
That's really we see his transformation. I feel like that's the bit, like in the beginning of the chapter, he's still Led Dent. We see he's really going through withdrawals. He's throwing up literal like bolts and nuts and screws and stuff, which is crazy. But then we get to see as they settle into this new culture, it comes super naturally to Debbie. She loves it. But then finally, Teddy sort of wakes up and he says, "It's like I'm seeing you with my own eyes again. For the first time in years, I've forgotten how beautiful you are." Which is sweet, and we see them, farming and repairing things and swimming, running around naked and being silly.
I mean, I will say it also takes Led like passing out and Kazumi like putting him into a coma for like, I think it's like 2 weeks. Yeah, it's 2 weeks or something like that. But then he comes out and he's kind of detoxed, which is crazy.
Whatever Kazumi did, it worked. He's better week by week. He goes to bed without sleeping pills. He wakes up without caffeine. No more outbursts, no more rage. Led Dent is gone. For the first time, I get to see the man Teddy should have become. Everything I knew he'd be. He's still an adolescent, but in a good way, the kind that has some wonderment left, some awe. On good days, he's patient, able to get past it and focus on helping people around the town.
And yeah, it's even on bad days, we take long walks and talk, we swim in the creek, sunbathe on the shore, we run through the forest naked. And
it says they fuck a lot.
They say that, which is crazy.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. But it's... Yeah, this is honestly just a great passage to read, but she says, "To be accepted in this community fixes so many of the cracks. We grow and prepare our own food. We eat together and laugh. No one is distracted by phones. No one politicking for money or stature. No loud egos. No one more important than anyone else. How sweet the simplicity is." And then we get this little kind of like inkling of... some stuff that's still going on inside Teddy's head here, where he's basically training to be a samurai and he's learning how to wield a blade and all these things like that. And what we end up seeing is that, she says they're teaching us useful things like how to ride a horse and use a sword, but without his tech, Led is weaker.
We can also see he's just smaller. He's not as hulking and
That's
insane
a good point,
looking.
yeah.
He's like a normal shaped man.
Right, a normal shaped man. But she ends up saying learning anything takes him much longer now. He can't focus. For years, the nanotech did all the remembering for him. Now his mind is a muscle in atrophy, his body clumsy and slow. And Teddy, it's interesting because like they make it like look like it's about to get real scary. And there's this thing that says all of Teddy's weaknesses with none of Led's strengths, which is pretty crazy. And so Teddy's grappling with this idea of who he is now without all this nanotech. And, the question I think definitely becomes here, can he accept himself for who he is without this stuff? Or is it more difficult than that?
You can see he has a ton of remorse and he feels terrible Debbie's kind of just been taking care of him and keeping them together and running the show for years while he's just been in this stupor basically. So, there's a bunch of quotes here. And again, we mentioned this earlier, but in this whole them like reconnecting and have this is ultimately sort of the like proposal scene, but it's like they're floating in outer space. They're on this pond. There's cute ducklings and all this stuff, but it sort of feels like they're floating in outer space, like in this galaxy together.
Yeah, it does.
We'll read some of the lines here. Teddy says, "A month clean now. Time passes slowly when you're not filling every second up with useless information. It forces you to sit with your emotions, to be human. I forgot how much that hurts.
She says it's worth it. Man, I think that's another great one there where like, yeah, I think that kind of some stuff that, we probably talked about even off the pod and whatever else, but like there is just a lot of like escapism that exists right now. I mean, it's been a crazy time. It's probably going to get even crazier. And I think that there is a lot of people just try not to feel all the things. There's a lot of feelings on top of each other at once, constantly.
I definitely, not to get too personal, but I definitely relate to that. Like
I feel that
in a lot of stuff where, difficult things that you have to go through in life. A lot of times I'll find myself just, distract myself through it.
Right.
Not saying I'd don't process things that happen.
Yeah.
I try to as best I can, but it
there's
also definitely
very easy ways to distract yourself nowadays too.
Yeah, and I mean, not all of them are as toxic and bad for you as others, but I'll be, don't want to. If I'm upset, I'm not trying to just like be alone with my thoughts. Like I'm like listening to music or whatever, or keeping myself busy. And this is just again, like we keep saying, it's like the crazy extreme version of that. And Teddy's questioning whether he's even worth it. Like, can't believe she's done all this. I used to, let's see, he says, maybe, but am I worth it? Why did you stay with me all those years? It breaks my heart. I was in there watching it all. I just stopped caring. Let's see, where's this line? When I was a kid, my dad got me a hamster. He said it was all the responsibility I could handle. The thing kept me up all night running on the wheel in its cage, and I remember watching him run around and around and how mad it made me. I didn't know, he didn't know what a waste of time it was. Eventually I forgot to feed him and he died. Like I forgot you. Like I left you running on that wheel starving. Dad was right. I can't handle responsibility. I missed my entire life, Debbie. Like I was frozen and I woke up to find 10 years had just vanished. No more running on that wheel. Let's stay here and have a family, have a normal life.
And that's
Debs,
he asks her to marry him. And it's a sweet moment. Another great, what'd you say, splash panel?
Yeah, when the 2 pages form just one huge image is what we're talking about when we say splash panel.
This is a great one. Beautiful.
Splash
just
page, maybe?
These dark blues, purples, the moon reflecting off of the water around them. And she says yes, so there's this connection between them. And then we get what we talked about, which is the crazy part. There's this guy who we actually met a little bit earlier and who seems to recognize Led. And then he's like, I'm just kidding. I don't know you. But he did know him, and now he's in the bushes watching them. And he basically says, samurai are born to die. Death is not a curse to be avoided, but the natural end of all life. Death is not eternal. Dishonor is, as you'll soon see, Constable, as you'll soon see. So this guy definitely knows Led Dent. He don't know Teddy, but he knows Led Dent.
Right.
And he's waiting to ambush him.
And that kind of wraps up the third issue,
which
is cool. I mean, it kind of feels like it's the like we're meeting the new character, Teddy.
Right.
We see him sort of break away from his previous identity and start to embrace this new one. And it's explicitly saying like I barely remember what even happened the last 10 years. Like he's, it doesn't. I'm not saying I'm not. I don't think it's implying he's completely absolved of all the sins and stuff that he had going on. But it's basically saying like I basically was absent from my own life.
I wasn't even there. Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, that's like, an interesting thing, not to go too deep or whatever else again, but all I'll say is out there, folks, there's a lot of crazy tech. Take care of yourself. Go outside, go on some walks, see some sun, all that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Touch grass.
Touch grass. Yeah. Right. And so that wraps up issue number 3 here. Jumping into issue number 4, this guy who's been hiding in the bushes, whose name is Mash, and this group of samurai jump out and ambush Led and Debbie, forcing Led to confront his past. We basically end up learning that Mash, his brother, was one of the people who humiliated Led, who humiliated Teddy back when they recorded that video. And after becoming a constable, Led had hunted them down, nearly killing the brother, burning Mash's face. He's got this eye patch on, all this kind of stuff. And Mash accuses him of enjoying the violence, which is pretty interesting because those kids were definitely inflicting violence on Teddy. But a vicious fight breaks out, and they're battling back and forth. And Kazumi actually ends up jumping in and trying to heal Led and stop the fighting. But Mash ends up stabbing through her and rejecting her peaceful path. I remember this. We'll get into this. I remember this. My mouth was open. I did not expect her to just get bop like that. But anyway, Led ultimately mashes face in with a rock just as Kazumi's guards arrive and see their leader dying. Realizing that they'll probably blame him, Led flees while he's wounded, reaches the ship, the sub that they came on, and I was so disappointed. I mean, this is what it is, with addiction and whatever else, but he goes to the ship and he uses some of the drugs that they brought with him to jack back into the super tech network, and Davy Trauma is back and appears on his screen and welcomes him back to being under the tech influence of the overlords. Pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, it goes from this really calm, nice chapter 3, and it seems like it's going to start off that way. They're still out in this pond, and then this is another actually great moment of just seeing kind of in between scenes where we've got all these purples and blues, and then we actually see a little flashback of Led running over all these kids. Yeah, it's crazy. Basically this guy Mash ends up saying that when Led was a constable, he went around when he destroyed them. He says, none of these constables, we'd met vicious pigs before, but nothing like you. No warning given. Anthony and Linda were just gone in red mist. It shows Led running them over with his motorcycle. And this guy says, I turned around to give myself up just in time to see you tear Jimmy's arm from its socket. So again, it's crazy that Teddy can even escape this life, because that dude was super brutal. But so this is who he's fighting now, and we get this whole kind of crazy. This is a really fun fight scene at the very least, because I feel like we haven't gotten as many maybe straight up fight scenes in this. There's been action scenes, but this is a samurai fight scene here.
Right. We saw all the tech based violence in the beginning that was crazy and entertaining and more lighthearted, and now this is a much more serious, dramatic samurai battle. And the whole chapter is really them monologuing at each other through this fight.
Yeah.
And it's really well done. It's interesting. A lot of the combat is more about the silhouettes and the colors of the sky in the background, and they're shooting arrows and throwing ninja stars
and yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all these more traditional Ninja Turtle type weapons and stuff. Which is cool, and obviously again in super juxtaposed against the way the action was in the beginning of the story back in LA.
Yeah, definitely. And so they're fighting, going through all this, and Teddy ends up getting sliced. He gets I don't even know how he lives through this, probably partially because of the drugs later on, but he ends up getting cut in the stomach, and the people are chasing after him. He gets knocked off this waterfall, which is another kind of crazy big panel here, watching him fall all the way down this. But they chase him down. They're fighting against it. Teddy fights off a couple of these guys. We got this. This is a really nice, I feel almost I want to say Kung Fu, because I don't have the best other knowledge of some movies like this, but these silhouettes, like you were talking about earlier, really, really cool fight scene here with these beautiful colored backgrounds, and Teddy, and I want to assume that this is Mash, or maybe it's Mash fighting back and forth, and it actually looks like, and again, this is the crazy thing, is that Teddy Led Dent basically loses. He is not going to be the one that is winning this fight, and right as Mash is about to kill him, Kazumi shows up and kicks Mash in the face, and she, interestingly enough, rightfully blames Mash and those guys for starting this fight, as far as we can tell.
And her monologue is amazing.
Yeah.
It all goes back. It basically is underlining all of their values of radical forgiveness and allowing people to start this new life together. She's saying, all these years, all this time with us, you've learned nothing. You only live by the grace of our clan's forgiveness. Your judgment is shit. Rectitude is the bone that gives firmness and stature. Without decency, neither talent nor learning can make the human frame into a samurai. I withdraw my hospitality. You are no longer welcome here.
And he's begging. He's no, Kazumi Sensei, please. It was vengeance. I could confess, but I was trying to protect the clan. They're here, to do this. And she basically ends up saying that he broke his pledge. And she goes over to heal Led. And she gets basically Mash stabs her right through her back, which is unbelievable.
and he stabs her in the back as she's talking about mercy. Like, one invested with the power to command and the power to kill is expected to demonstrate equally the powers of mercy, love,
magnanimity.
Yeah, for real, magnanimity, magnam.
It's like an enemy.
Magnanimity.
Yeah, magnanimity.
Yeah, love, magnanimity, affection for others, sympathy, and pity are the highest attributes of the human soul. The highest requirement of a ruler is benevolence. I welcomed them with this promise, and you made me a liar. So, and that's when he stabs her.
She's real, man.
Which is wild.
She's holding it down. But yeah, he stabs her and he just says, "Guess I ain't no samurai." And then tries to go after Led, and Led, just completely basically takes this rock and smashes his head in. And then all of the rest of the samurai from Tokyo show up and start attacking Led, and they
assuming he was the one that killed her.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And they said that their light is now extinguished. And Debbie ends up jumping down because she is a little bit away from this fight. I think she's still at the top of the waterfall when things are going on, and so she jumps down. The people are saying, "This is the work of your man," and she says, "No, we were ambushed. He wouldn't." And what they end up learning is that Kazumi's still alive. They take her back to the town. Teddy is nowhere to be found. And then we, as readers, end up seeing him go back to the ship saying, "I'm sorry, Debs, I tried, whatever it's worth. You got to understand, only way I'm getting through this, just enough to get me right, just one fix." And then we see this throwback of the two of them where she says, "No tech," and he says, "I promise." And then he is basically passing out as his system is rebooting, saying, "I promise." And
he definitely looks like he's dying. I mean, he's got arrows coming out of his eye socket.
Yeah, he might have died, not going to lie, if he didn't do this, but still, you got to kind of take one for the team sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It really obviously ends up going totally sideways. I think it's also interesting symbolism, like injecting the drugs and the tech back in is literally with a syringe,
right.
Which is kind of like a direct, makes us want to think about opiates, and which is a whole other thing that's that issue we're facing as a nation. And
that's very true. That's very true.
But yeah, basically he injects himself with the tech and the drugs to keep himself alive, and is immediately
greeted by Davy Trauma,
right? Who, as we know, has the ability to completely take over and control anybody who is logged on to the net.
Crazy.
How was it? I don't remember. How was it that they weren't able to, like, in the beginning when they're chasing him, that guy's not able to take over Led?
I think that there's a moment where he's trying to, and then I think that maybe it's also that injection that Debbie does when she's like, rage and like whatever else.
Debbie has a way to like block it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that she just injects Led with so much stuff that he's like impossible to control.
Right. Well, I mean, however they do it, it makes sense because she's the only one tech free. So as he's trying to like basically hack into him, she can be doing countermeasures or whatever to keep him safe. Right. And obviously they are separated. She's not there to
care for him and protect him, which
is what
he says he doesn't need, but
he
pretty obviously does. Yeah, but so that wraps up issue number 4. Issue number 5.
Final issue.
Yeah, final issue of this trade paperback here. I'll let you, Ben, take this one.
Sure. So Kazumi lies dying and reveals to Debbie that her body, empowered by a special serum, has secretly been powering the EMP field that kept the technology out of Japan. The serum lets her commune with nature and neutralize tech. She gives Debbie her sword and urges her to carry on that role. Once Kazumi dies and the EMP drops, Led, now reconnected and taking orders from Davy, returns on his bike and tears through the village, killing villagers as he prepares to destroy the entire island. Debbie tries to save Kazumi's son, Takara, and stands in Led's path, briefly seeing a hint of Teddy is still inside when he swerves to avoid her. As Led arms a bomb, Debbie escapes his grasp, injects herself with the serum to act as an EMP battery, and tries to shut the device down, but the bomb still ends up detonating, obliterating the island. Led watches the destruction from afar in horror as other constables arrive and congratulate him on the job well done.
Man, I was pissed when I read this. And this is actually, I will say this is definitely one of the things that makes me want to read volume 2 of this. But what a crazy ending. And we'll come back around to that. But in the beginning of this, we see Kazumi. She ends up passing away. It's pretty interesting. I do think it's like a little bit... not like funny, but you know what I'm saying, where she's like, Deborah, take this. You must carry this on. Your belief in our shared dream, you are the one that's like, more anti-tech than like anybody else here, which I think is so interesting. But it goes to show that Debbie's, a real one and has truly felt this way for a long time.
And shows the the welcoming nature, like the society that she's trying to form in Japan isn't just like one where they're keeping people out. Like she's saying, anybody can come, anybody is welcome, anybody can come live this type of life with us. And I recognize those values in you, and you're going to be the one to carry it on, even though you're not necessarily originating from
Right,
that.
right. Anybody can be Spider-Man.
Anybody can be Spider-Man.
Yeah, real stuff. But so we end up learning that Kazumi was part of this. She was part of the Akata project as well, which is actually the same thing, kind of crazy enough that Davy comes from. But she's basically, we see her kind of like strapped down, basically having all this tech use on her and this serum that gets injected into her to make her become this EMP. And then she ends up passing away in the current time in front of her husband and son. And what's kind of crazy is like, I mean, she really was like holding this whole thing together, because immediately after the husband is like, hand over that blade. My wife's fever brought on delusion. You will not lead us. You have brought only sadness to our home. Your man killed my wife and left our village vulnerable to attack. Now, tell us, where does he hide? And she's trying to defend him, but we end up learning that they're being attacked. And funny enough, Debbie actually already knows who it is. Crazy. We end up seeing Led, and actually there's this little kind of internal monologue of hers where she says, Teddy is dead for good this time. And it's Led driving through the city. He's got his screens back on. He's roided out, covered in blood, on this gigantic motorcycle. And again, like this is this super tech dude driving through where people are using like swords and bows and arrows and things like that. And so he's just like shredding everybody. He's driving through the city. There's flames coming out. He's burning the horses, the people, the everything.
His back is, they're shooting all the arrows they can at him, and they're just sticking out of him like a pincushion, like he doesn't even feel it or care or anything.
Right. Yeah, I bet that's exactly kind of what's going on. There is that moment that we talked about, or that Ben talked about, where Debbie kind of does this funny thing where she's basically like, I'm going to stand my ground here. If he kills me driving over me with this motorcycle, I'm right, he's gone. If he turns, there's hope. And he does end up turning and skidding around her, which, that's nice. He is destroying this whole town, so I think he's kind of lost in the sauce for sure.
Or is it him, or is it Davy?
I guess that's a good point. Yeah, it could be Davy controlling this whole thing. That's true. And then Davy also starts broadcasting this whole craziness to all the people back in Los Angeles, saying your hometown hero is fighting to secure the goods. These swine have been hoarding, and everybody's cheering. But back in Tokyo, Debbie is basically taking Takara away and trying to hide him in this secret little bunker to keep them safe from realistically Teddy. And he's blowing. I mean, it's crazy. He's just like sowing absolute destruction throughout this whole place. And we end up
supposed to be. I feel like it's supposed to be reminiscent of just sort of like imperialism and colonialism and stuff too. Where
I think that's very true.
You have these amazing cultures. And they have let's just do Japan specifically, like amazing culture, history of self-defense, all this stuff, a bunch of samurais, and then some freaking white dudes just pull up with guns and bombs and shit, and it's a wrap, you know?
Right. It's absolute insanity. And we even see, it's like crazy how like tough this gets. The husband ends up running up behind Led and throwing this. He's really roided out, because this guy throws like a what even is this? I'm thinking about like a harpoon through his chest and stops him in his tracks. Says, you murdered my wife, but you will not take my home. And says, we will die before leaving our land. And Led ends up killing Kazumi's husband in front of Takara as Debbie's trying to get him away. And this is like, bro, this reminded me of like the Game of Thrones scene. But yeah, Led literally crushes this dude's head in his hands. I don't know if anybody's seen that episode of Game of Thrones, the snake or what is it?
You raped her. You murdered her.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, I squished her head like this.
Yeah, bop. And it's absolute insanity. But so we get that kind of trauma, and not Kazumi, but Takara?
Yeah, the kid.
Takara is basically watching this, and Debbie's trying to keep him from looking. But she gets Takara into the bunker, saying that she'll come back for him, promising that there's flames behind them. She ends up going after Led, because he's installing a bomb like on their shrine, a gigantic bomb that's going to blow up and destroy this whole town. And Led ends up even grabbing her and basically taking her on the motorcycle. It's interesting that basically it's Davey that's kind of talking through this, where he says, all this place has shown Led is that without the tech, he's weak and vulnerable. Back in LA, he's a god, but he likes you. You always helped keep him in line, so we'll let him have a trophy, right? And they basically run off taking Debbie with them, or Led taking Debbie with him. And she ends up basically throwing this chain into the wheels of the bike, throwing herself and Led off of it, and she runs back, making the intense decision at the end. I don't know how she knew this, but inside of that sword was a vial of the serum that Cosme had used to become the EMP. And it's this like crazy moment where she's undoing it. She's got to save these people from our sickness. I do this. I become an EMP battery, short the bomb, and become Led's poison forever. He's been, and she says, I think rightfully,
it means that it's like this tragic Romeo and Juliet thing, where if she does this and he has all that nanotech in his body, they can never be together again, because he just can't be near her.
Yeah, exactly.
I think is what it's implying.
I think that, no, you're 100% right. And she says, I think rightfully so, that he's been her poison long enough. And then Led, what's interesting is that he realizes what's going on, and he actually kind of like breaks out of the control of all this nanotech, and he's running back saying, Debbie, and he's running, and then everything explodes. Debbie does not, at the very least, as far as we can tell, get the serum in time, and the whole town, this whole area of Tokyo is absolutely obliterated. And then we see, it's like a nuclear explosion, basically. And the last kind of pieces that we get of this, and this is actually very much to your point of imperialism, but we see Mr. Flack, this is Constable Thrash, we have visual confirmation of Led Dent, he's alive. Led, my boy, it took you long enough, but you did it, you kept your word, Tokyo is liberated, right? I feel like that's a very imperialistic statement there, saying that this place is liberated after you've destroyed it, blown up everybody, and killed everyone. But anyway,
that's where it ends.
That's where it ends. I was like, I mean, again, I'm gonna have to read the second half of it, because I just was like, it was like, I cannot accept that it ends this terribly, but it does. But that's where we are. And yeah, man, this was a crazy story. What did you think of this overall, Ben?
I really enjoyed it. It was great to reread it. It sort of feels like maybe it has bigger aspirations than it's able to execute on, maybe. Like some of the points that it's trying to get across. Obviously, we actually ended up reading a lot of dialogue out loud, which I love when we do that. I think it's really helpful trying to find those passages that
kind of spoke to us.
Right, and you can feel the author really, Remender has a perspective, and he has a point and something that he's trying to get across through the story, in addition to just all of the madness and cool art and combat and whatever.
Right, exactly.
So it's cool to see those moments. But I also feel like maybe obviously I'm not trying to criticize the story, but I think it may be like a little lost in the sauce. Like there's those moments where it's getting the point across, and then there's a lot of just crazy stuff happening. But the crazy stuff is really like the art. I just like this art so much. Honestly, the story could be like half as good, and I would still fuck with this book. Like the whole, Antonio always says this and encourages you guys to go check out the book. And obviously, it's ideal when you guys are reading along with us to some extent and interacting and trying to join in on the conversation. But I really recommend this one. As long as you don't mind there being some genitalia. Yeah,
if you're squeamish, maybe take a break. But if you're not, definitely check it out. We'd love to see what you guys think. I think that for me, I think I do kind of like agree with you, Ben. I think when I read this, I think that obviously the art and a lot of things like really stood out to me, and I think that they're really crazy. I think that the general story itself is really good. I think that there are. The only thing that I would say, and again, like we're not here to necessarily like criticize in particular. That's not really kind of like the point of this podcast, at least at this point. But I think that there are certain pieces of dialogue where, it's almost like if they were like entirely removed. I feel like the story would be just as good as it is, if not better. That's maybe what I would say.
Right. It's, it kind of feels, it's interesting because Remender, I haven't read a lot of his stuff. The only other thing of his that I've read a little bit of that I think would be a great thing for us to cover at some point in the future is Deadly Class.
Right. I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
I actually I bought some, cause they were on sale sometime. I think I have like slightly damaged copies or whatever, but I have 3 huge compendiums, like coffee table book sized versions of Deadly Class. Yeah. I can show you once we wrap, but, I've only read the beginning of it, and the way that I describe Deadly Class to people is like it kind of feels like a Tarantino Harry Potter in a weird way, and I think there's a lot of that same sort of Tarantino energy in here.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
in
true.
like in the violence and the shock value and some of the you know, crass humor and whatnot.
Right.
But in general, I think it's you know, it's definitely successful and it's just a really cool story.
It is a cool story. And I think, you know, what's kind of interesting is I think that like it really is, it's probably accomplishing a good amount of the stuff that they set out to do. I think our conversation about this and acknowledging like the crassness of certain moments and things like that. When I was thinking about this, this comic here, and I was talking to you about it, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it. You know, part of what I think is kind of interesting here is I think that some of the crassness and whatever else, obviously there's some that's like outright supposed to be just like, oh, you know, Davy Trauma, for example, is like saying all these crazy things because he's awful and he's like exemplifying what this society has become with all of this technology. I think that, you know, some of the maybe dialogue moments and whichever else that we're talking about, I think are meant to kind of exemplify that even more so, where even because we get semblances of this like type of dialogue, of just like a little bit of like crassness, even when they're in like Tokyo.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting kind of thought process to think that like, they, you know, they're still kind of like infected by this thing. They also haven't been there for that long, but it's like, it kind of shows you maybe how deep this stuff runs in you. And so I think that there's kind of like a, you know, it's going to come down to like opinion and things like that. But I think that there is like a certain point that's trying to be made with the crassness, even outside of people like Davy Trauma.
Right. It's also cool. I mean, the crassness is sometimes just fun and funny too. Like, and also specifically the way in which it's related to like internet humor and internet slang. Like, I can't like him.
There's like pwned, like,
they say, oh,
which I have not heard in a long time.
Right.
Reading pwned again was crazy.
Yeah, pwn some noobs, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he probably said like rafflecopter.
Yeah, I
think
think he did say rafflecopter or something like that.
I'm Murder Jesus.
Right.
Epic win. What I don't know. They're just saying all this stuff.
Yeah, like early internet humor memes, stuff like that.
I don't even know if that's early, but you know, it's crazy how fast just every year the
landscape.
It's moving, it's changing. The references are different. I mean, the trends used to last so long.
Right.
Even like flash in the pan internet trends. Like we may have said this before on the pod too. I don't remember, but do you remember how long planking was a thing, bro?
Yeah.
Like when we were in middle school or early high school, it was just like, oh, like lie down flat like a board on random places. And people thought that was funny for like a year.
Yeah.
If planking happened now, these Gen Z kids.
One, it wouldn't. Bro. And two, they'd be over it real quick.
It'd be like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Tops.
Maximum.
We were on that for way too long.
Yeah, way too long. Which is I think that's a very interesting point. Yeah, about all this.
But it's cool. I mean, the art is beautiful. The action is cool.
Colors, like we were talking about.
The colors are amazing. And it does do a good job of making you think. Like, you know, there'll be these passages where it's some ridiculous version of a very relatable, relatable experience, whether that has to do with tech or the internet or distraction or addiction.
Right.
It's all these things that, you know, it's certainly Antonio and I assume a lot of you guys would be able to relate to in minor ways, or at least understand and see present in our current world. And
you know, you make a good point. I think that one of the really big like takeaways for me from this, I think, is, I mean, it's stuff that we know, I think, a lot, but you know, when we think of like addiction, right, we think of like drugs, we think of maybe gambling or whatever else, different things like that, right? We're living in this world where like, tech addiction is like a real thing. And we don't talk about it always like that, because it's like when you think of somebody who's like tech addicted, you're like, oh, there's like, you know, you hear the story about like some kid in some country who's like sitting playing video games for like 24 hours a day, and then he like drops dead or whatever else after like 7 days or something like that. But
real shit.
Real shit. But like when you think about how so many people nowadays interact with technology, right? Like I think a lot of us would be surprised with how much like quote unquote like screen time we have. I mean, me, for example, like I I work from home right now, so I'm working on like a laptop. And actually, you and I talked about this a little while ago, where it's like you wake up in the morning, you like check the news on your phone on that screen, and then you work on that screen, and then you get off that screen later. And maybe you go out and like do like a walk, or you go see friends, and that's great, and that's like the right thing. But then there are other days where you get off that, you know, work screen, and then you go watch another screen, and then you do, and probably while you're watching that screen, you're looking at another screen, right? And then, you know, it's just like layers on layers.
Exactly.
So it's interesting.
No, I mean, that's all super real. And also, I mean, just the thing that I feel a lot, where I am like every year losing my capacity to just have downtime. Like if I'm if I'm in line in the grocery store, like you know, I have less than a minute of time to just be standing there. And it's like, oh, I gotta have my phone out.
Right,
I literally can't have like unoccupied time.
Right.
And some of it is just like part of the modern world and is just a thing. Like we're out here multitasking and doing all that stuff at once. And I'm not even saying that's objectively maybe a bad thing, but also talking about screens, like, you know, it's interesting. It's like, obviously you can like, you can have authentic relationships and cool experiences and stuff in these virtual spaces and everything. Right. Like one of the things, like you and I, bro, like part of our friendship, like from the jump, the gaming has been a part of that.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Not to say that I don't love gaming, because I do.
Yeah, and it's not just, you know, we're not out here. So obviously, these this is all super nuanced. None of this is just like stark, like tech bad, nature good. It's all of the above. There's good ways to have it all work. But we have to be intentional about it, and we have to be careful about how us all as a collective can just be slipping and sliding into some perilous futures here.
I think that is very true. Well, anyway, folks, this has been Kickback Comics, episode number 13.
We're doing it.
Tokyo Ghost. Go check it out if you got the stomach for it, and if you don't, go listen to one of our other episodes, or come back next week.
Facts. Thanks, guys.
Good. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.